Well, Oregon lost Indiana 30-20. And it didn't, dare I say, it didn't even feel that close. Oregon, let me ask you this. Was that the worst performance of the Lanning era?
Yeah, for me, that trumps the Washington game. And frankly, I mean, with the college football playoff last year for Ohio State, you know, it sucked, but like Ohio State's really, really good. This is a game that I think you should have won coming in. So for me, yes, but I understand why people wouldn't say that.
Well, there's a couple things. One, you're right. Is if comparing it to the Ohio State game, you know, that's talent-rich Ohio State. They ended up being they won the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, my God, that could be one of the best championship teams we've seen in the last 15, 20 years. Now, granted, you already beat them once this last year.
A lot of NFL talent, a lot of people saying.
Yeah, so is it better to get pounded, which the Ducks, I mean, come on, they got pounded.
Oh, yeah.
And some of it was the layoff, but come on. Ohio State, they just kicked your ass. Is it better to lose to the talent like that or lose a close game at home to a team where you seemingly have the better talent, although they got some studs at Indiana, and we knew that. But, I mean, come on, Oregon should be better across the board. Which is worse? And then, you know, you brought up the Washington loss, and a couple of those Washington losses, they were all, I mean, three of them, weren't there? Or two? Oh,
two.
Yeah, two.
They got over the hump the third time.
That's right, they beat them.
Yeah.
Those were really close. The second half against Oregon State in 2022, where I believe they didn't throw a pass and still came back and beat you, that was bad. But this, I don't know. This might have been the worst performance of the Lanning era. It was bad. Outcoached, outplayed. You know, when you lose the battle along both lines of scrimmage, it's amazing how much worse your coaches look. So I know there's a lot of chatter today about Will Stein and maybe even Dan Lanning to some extent. The offensive line wasn't very good. Indiana was playing downhill all game. And bigger than that, they confused the hell out of Dante Moore. I mean, so the complaints about the offense, to me, would be more how they handled what Indiana was bringing to the table defensively. You know, we talked about it with Lanning on Thursday. Suke said it all last week. Indiana brings complex pressures. They play a very, well, again, for lack of a better term, complex defense. And a lot of times it isn't what it seems. They show you one thing and it ends up being another. Oregon knew this and yet handled it. And coming off a bye, they knew this and yet handled it quite poorly, considering how good we know this coaching staff is. So is that more on Will Stein? Is that more on Dante Moore? Could Stein have done more to help Moore? I mean, he certainly tried. You know, I thought Will Stein schemed their first touchdown, the one over the top. I thought that was really nice. But could he have done more to help Dante Moore in game? Maybe so. I don't know. That's the beauty of what Indiana does, man. That's as well coached of a football team as I've ever seen. It really was a masterpiece, and they had Moore's brain going screensaver for most of that game. And a lot of that is just on Dante Moore. I don't know. In the end, Oregon got outcoached. They did. And Lanning even admitted that. And that's maybe the most shocking part of this, is that's what we didn't see coming with Dan Lanning and his staff, is a game like that. And remember, too, I mentioned Oregon coming off a bye. So was Indiana. And with a team that runs what they run, perhaps coming off a bye for them gives them more time to fine-tune the brain trip to Dante Moore. I don't know. I do feel like, based on specifically what they do, giving them more time to prepare is a bigger advantage than some teams coming off a bye. So the question becomes, do you want to see Indiana again? I mean, it was a close game, but Ooh. I don't know. I mean, we shouldn't overreact. Oregon is going to be fine. They're probably going to be in the playoff. So will Indiana. You want another crack at those guys? You want another crack at that? I don't know, man. That leaves some doubt in my mind.
I would actually like to see Oregon face off against them because there's questions that I have not only about like the coaching staff that you were talking about, Rob, but kind of coming in. We saw, I think it was the second holding penalty on the offensive line for Oregon. Alex Harkey in particular, one of the tackles, man, he just almost looked like F it after he got that penalty. And it just made me wonder what the level of preparation for Oregon truly was. And, this particular week, questioning whether the guy's bought in or not. Dante Moore from play one was sacked, right? And you ask, well, did Will Stein not do enough? I asked Dusty Hare on the postgame show this weekend, Rob, Will Stein was trying to get Dante Moore, out in different looks. He moved him out to the pocket. He was rolling out. He looked for runs. He just got sacked way too many times. They did so much on the defensive end for Indiana to take away what Oregon does well. Dante Moore usually leaves a guy to spy and takes away a guy from their coverage in the passing game because he can run. On top of that, they've got great running backs. None of that was working for Oregon. Kenyon Sadiq didn't get involved, and credit to Indiana for that, but I really do question some of the players' efforts, and if they were truly ready mentally for the game. Well, then I go to the coaching staff and wonder.
Okay. Well, the idea that a team wouldn't be ready to play, I just don't. I think that's fan narrative. I think that's dumb.
Okay.
I think what you saw was what I just said. Is you saw first of all, you saw an offensive line that was not doing well. I mean, it wasn't the worst performance of all time. They weren't just being steamrolled.
They were overmatched, though.
They did not play well. And then you couple that with a quarterback whose brain is scrambled. And a lot of that is what Indiana does. That's what they do. And so, again, I go back to it. I think the question is, if you gave Will Stein truth serum, because we remember in sports, we just can't ever throw anyone on our team ever under the bus. We won't do that. But if you really had a truth serum and you handed it to Will Stein, he would say, look, I prepared him as well as I could possibly prepare him. He didn't handle it well. Or is Dante Moore going, well, I don't think the coaches really prepared me very well for that. I would imagine that, look, the Ducks just got Indiana'd. It wasn't about their effort. You always look a step slow when all of those things happen, where your lines aren't holding up. Your quarterback is second guessing or not seeing what's there. All of that makes you look flat. It makes you look confused. It makes you look listless. So I don't think it's an effort thing. They just got Indiana. They got outcoached. Curt Cignetti is awesome. Awesome. With a capital A. And you saw that play out in that game. The thing is, that game was tight. It kind of doesn't feel like it because one team was clearly better, but it was 20-20 with 7 minutes left in the game. You missed one field goal. You lost the turnover battle, and that's 2 games in a row now that have come down to the wire. You won one, you lost one. That's kind of how it is. Regroup, move on. It's all right in front of you. The thing I would say about this team, and I so if you really want to. It's not nitpick. It's just raise a question about Oregon that still needs to be answered. Is they have great depth, but it's young and not sure that they have enough of the top end difference maker players yet who can bail them out when you get in a game like that. Okay, that ESPN just did a ranking of the top 10 offensive and defensive players in the country. True difference maker players, Oregon had none of them. So if you want the biggest prize, and that's what Oregon is in this for at this point, they've risen to that level where you're competing for championships year in and year out. Remember, Ohio State last year probably had 3 in that group alone. Miami this year has at least 3, maybe 4. Oregon doesn't have that. At least not yet. They can develop that. Again, a lot of these guys are young. DeCorian Moore looks promising, certainly Dante Moore. But, I think that's a fair question, more so than effort or, lack of heart or anything. They just got beat, man. And I think the stunning thing, which leaves us looking for answers, is how they just got. We just think so highly of Dan Lanning here and Will Stein here, probably one of the best offensive coordinators in the country, if not the best. We're stunned that they were outcoached in that manner. I mean, nothing they did worked.
It's shocking to even hear that, Rob.
Nothing.
Yeah, to your point, it's like, dude,
and it's Indiana. It's not like you're getting outcoached by freaking Kansas. I mean, Lance Leipold, the genius that is, right? Schulte?
I get it. Yeah, but you're looking. It's like who can out prepare the other after seeing it on film. But it just looked like Oregon wasn't even close, not even in the same realm. And not just Dante Moore, but on the defensive end, it looks like they got beat too. Like I don't know.
I don't want to get defense was horrible.
No. They probably played more of a normal game than the offense, frankly. I don't want to get into the fan narrative, but I don't know if it was because Indiana, it just maybe discouraged the players a little bit more, but I saw a lot of listlessness, and you might be right, Rob. That might just be from, people seeing from the start of the game and not able to buy in because, this is who we're playing.
Well, I think that's the chess match. I think, you just talk to football people, listen to football people talk about what happened in that game.
Yeah.
And that's your answer, not. Yeah, because I think sometimes fans go down those roads because they don't really understand maybe what's happening out on the field. And they don't really understand why Dante Moore looked like that. Although he's a pretty calm figure no matter. He's a pretty level-headed guy.
Well, and there was I saw mistakes, Rob. A lot of mistakes by the players. I guess that's why.
Well, of course, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But when you're losing on both lines of scrimmage and Indiana is throwing stuff at you that you don't understand or that you're misinterpreting and you're not seeing what's out there, that's what leads to mistakes. By the way, the Ducks got a pick 6 in that game.
They did.
That tied the game. They were right there. So I think we're making a little too much of this. I think you got to give Indiana credit. Oregon will be fine. That is a jarring and frustrating loss, but I don't think there's a bigger meaning in it that people are searching for. I just don't. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to win at Rutgers, and they may not lose again. That's the best team. Suke said it last week. He's right. That's the best team you're going to play all season, all regular season, right there. Now what you have to do is you have to root against Indiana. Although I don't see where they slip up either, the way they look, and hope to get into that Big Ten title game. But as it stands now, and a lot can change, but as it stands now, boy, it looks like Ohio State and Indiana are on a collision course for that game. So there's so many more things to talk about with regards to Oregon, Indiana, which we will get to coming up, but we got to take a break. Also coming up, 2 more coaches who lost to Oregon got fired. James Franklin is out. And Trent Bray is out. And you know what's interesting is another one could be coming up because Luke Fickell in Wisconsin is coming to town on the 25th. Now, I was surprised that Luke Fickell didn't get fired after the Iowa loss this past weekend, but he didn't. And that's probably because Ohio State's coming to Madison this weekend. And it's like, well, you don't want to put everybody in a bad spot with the number 1 team in the country coming there. But so it's possible that Wisconsin will have an interim coach when they come to Autzen. But it's just amazing. Mike Gundy got turfed after getting blown out by Oregon. Now James Franklin loses, can't recover after losing to Oregon. And of course, we can't give Oregon credit for the Trent Bray firing. He hasn't beaten anybody. But 2 more coaches who lost to Oregon fired in the Penn State. We didn't think they would buy out James Franklin, so much money on the hook, but they did.